Big Ten has bragging rights, and it is not afraid to use them. 3 consecutive national championships and practices underway across the country. So as we start our conference previews, we might as well start at the top. Glad to have you with us on the College GameDay Podcast. Rece Davis, Pete Thamel, and Dan Wetzel here. So guys, how we've decided that we're going to break down these conference previews with the mega conferences and trying to get through 18 teams in an appropriate amount of time, it's a virtual impossibility. So we're going to break this down into 2 segments. The segment that we'll start with today will be with the teams that we believe have a chance to win the conference championship and by definition go on to the college football playoff. The next episode previewing the team, and we'll do our very best to hit a little bit on all 18 teams in the conference. But that will be sleepers, storylines, definition of successful seasons, things like that for the teams who are not deemed, at least as we sit here in early August, in contention. So I think the way to do this is because there might be some disagreement among the 3 of us about who the contenders really are when you get past the 3 obvious ones. So if you guys are in agreement, let's start with the court stipulating that the 3 teams that will definitely be involved in this podcast of contenders in the Big Ten. Reigning national champion Indiana Hoosiers, team that many believe will be preseason number 1, if not postseason number 1, the Ohio State Buckeyes, and the Oregon Ducks. Got a pretty good nugget on the Ducks that probably hasn't escaped your notice, but we'll bring it up when we talk about them. But we need 3 more because we don't want to do 3 teams in this pod and try to get through 15 in the next one in a reasonable amount of time. People like drafts. So let's do a draft. And Mr. Wetzel, I'm going to give you the first pick. Beyond the obvious 3 contenders in the Big Ten, who should be another team that is included in our contenders section in previewing the Big Ten?
Simple. USC Trojans. I'll take them as the 4th pick. Hey, Jaden Mayava returning. Got veteran quarterback play, 9-4 last year. Offensive ceiling remains really high. Lincoln Riley is alone in saying they finally built the program to where they want. Talent on the lines, a whole bit. The question mark to me, the schedule. And you got 2 huge segments of the season that are going to define this thing. Late September, Oregon at home, Washington at home, at Penn State. Then they get a bye week, a bye week and at Wisconsin. But then after Wisconsin, they got to come home, Ohio State and Indiana. So you got these couple little segments there that are going to define the season. But there's plenty of time to ramp up. They should be 4-0 heading into that Oregon game. I think they've got what it takes to jump in and be a contender and win the Big Ten.
So moved. USC moves into the group of contenders in the Big Ten. So now we have 4 of the 6 spots that we have allotted. Pete, next pick. Who have you got?
Well, Rece, one of the great joys of drafting in any sport is knowing your pick is going to anger one of your peers in the draft. So I am convicted that you would like to take the Penn State Nittany Lions, Rece. So I'm going to take the Penn State Nittany Lions in my draft. Am I right? Am I right?
You are correct.
I am correct.
I have a backup plan, though, Pete. Don't worry. I have a backup plan.
I am going to take Cyclones East, right? It's a very, very linear line. When you say, why will Penn State be competitive? All right. You start with Rocco Becht, who's one of the more veteran and productive quarterbacks in all of college football. And then you just go through basically every major position on the field where you find very good players from Iowa State. All right. You can find them with, Chase Sowell coming in at wide receiver. You can find it with, you might have to help me here. It's Rece. It's Brett Eskeldon.
Yes, I believe that is correct. Yes.
Who rolls in at wide receiver. Obviously a dynamic kick returner as well. You got a couple guys sprinkled on the defense. And not for anything. You got guys like Anthony Donka, the right tackle, who is redshirt junior, who get drafted, who's key player there. There are good players. Malachi Goodman, the left tackle, who were in the program who remained there. So the combination of that and a schedule that starts Marshall at Temple, Buffalo, Wisconsin home at Northwestern, USC at home. I don't think they'll be an underdog until they go to Michigan. So they got time to find their footing. Matt Campbell knows how to coach football. So I'm going to take Cyclones East as a bit of a surprise contender.
Do you like Cyclones East? I've kind of preferred the Penn State Nittany Clones. I don't know. I don't mean to be dismissive of either, and I know that's probably a bit of a sore subject for Iowa State fans, having lost not only their coach, who they loved, but also so many players, 24 of them just going to Penn State, and there were a handful of other guys who've wound up in places across the country where they have the opportunity to have contributing roles. So that leaves me with the final draft pick of a team that we would put into contender status. Now, there are a lot of different ways you could go here. One, you could look at a team like Iowa. Despite all of the losses from a year ago, they just sort of find ways. They are firm in their identity under Kirk Ferentz. So Iowa, I certainly think, would have to be reckoned with, but I'm not quite ready to pick them. You could go out on a real wild card and say, if not now, when? With all of the young talent that Maryland played last year and having a terrific young quarterback, and maybe they put together a season that could save Mike Loxley's job. I'm not willing to go that far out. You could also do unto Pete Thamel as he just tried to do unto you. And you could take his coaching man crush of the century, Bob Chesney, and UCLA and go, wow, off the board. How about those Bruins? Not willing to do that. I'm going to run power. I'm going to keep the ball on the ground and get a first down. I'm going to Ann Arbor. I'm going to go to Michigan, the phrase that has probably been used 10 billion times since he was hired away from Utah, or after the departure, the separation from Utah to take over at Michigan of Kyle Whittingham. There is, everybody say it with me, an adult in the room. But it is true. I mean, he gives them a lot of the things they need. And one of the things that he can't bring with him, as some of the other new coaches have, he finds when he arrives. And it's a supremely talented quarterback in Bryce Underwood. Now, I know that there have been some aspersions cast his way. But if you have listened to this podcast very often, you know that there are 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the whole history of my football fandom, which unfortunately for me now dates back 55 years or so, that I have great reverence for. One of them is John Elway. And when I watched Bryce Underwood last year, I felt as if I saw flashes of John Elway. Because before Elway became in the later stages of his NFL and was sort of beaten up by injuries and only moved, okay, he could really move. But what draws that memory, evokes that image in my mind, is the way Underwood just, if you're watching on YouTube, watch this, wham! Just released, and it comes out like a rifle shot. Now he's got a guy who understands that the help that a good running game can give a quarterback. Michigan had a good running game last year. But he'll be able to, I think, grow in the offense. I'm not sure that the offense, as we saw from Utah last year surrounding Devin Dampier and all of that quarterback running, I'm not sure that's Bryce Underwood. But I'm banking on them being able to adapt that and use his running judiciously as a complement to a guy who I think has the potential to be a tremendous passer. So Jason Beck will be running the offense there. He's worked with a lot of quarterbacks over the years. Dampier that we talked about. He's worked with Bryce Perkins at Virginia, Taysom Hill way back in the day. They have several guys from Utah, including John Henry Daly, who's coming back off an Achilles injury, assuming that he is healthy. And I believe, as I've last read, that he's been cleared for everything and ready to go. And that's that's quick because it was later in the season when he was hurt, had a good recruiting class. And I think they have organization to them. And apparently, if you can believe what you read on the social media, and who would ever doubt anything like that, they've made some gains in the strength and conditioning realm as well. But everybody says that. I don't know if there's ever been a new coach alive that has ever come in and said, you know what, we found a really strong athletic football team, and we're not going to have to change a thing. It's always like, well, we're going to have to change the culture. You would not believe how awful the strength and conditioning was before we got here. They may not say how awful, but what they mean is how awful. So Michigan is the 6th team there, and I went on a little bit longer on the Wolverines than I intended to, but let's start right at the top. Let's start with the reigning national champions, the Indiana Hoosiers. Big Ten has won 3 consecutive national championships with 3 different teams. First time that's happened since the 40s, when Minnesota went back-to-back and then Ohio State won in 40 through 42. And it is not terribly surprising that Michigan would have won a national championship. It is altogether unsurprising that Ohio State would have won a national championship, but it is downright stunning that Indiana did. Guys, I was just in Bloomington last week, and they've done a tremendous job with their meeting facilities and office space and locker room. They've made such unbelievable improvements, let's say, over the last year and a half. It was something that Signetti went about not forcing them to do, but doing it in a strong way, rather than some previous administrations had sort of left stuff out to see if somebody would pick it up, and it's silly stuff like that, and it just created this animosity between the two sides. Instead, he wanted it fixed up. He wanted the locker room fixed, and he got all of these things. Yet, when I pulled up in front of the stadium.
I'm going to cut you off quick, Rece. That was the classic Rece Davis. He needed to say a few nice things before he wanted to say what he really said. That was if you needed a textbook Rece Davis, 2 nice things before the criticism, that is a first one of the year, right out of Central Casting.
Yeah, baby.
Use that as the clip to indicate this tactic.
Okay. And it was a little rambly too, but we're starting this series next week. It's called Official Visit with Rece Davis. Indiana is one of the stops that we made. We go and we do something with either a coach or a player there. And as we pulled up to the now certainly improved area and pulled up to the stadium and looked around, I started laughing. I looked at Wiley and I was like, how did this happen? How did they do this? They were 16-0 and won the national championship. And I would say that for the program that was the ultimate chum in the water, the ones that the big fish fed on forever and ever and ever, they're now the apex predator in the deep water. Somebody may favor Ohio State. They may favor Oregon. Everybody's shooting at Indiana now, Pete, whether you like it or whether you don't. And I know you do.
Can I tell my version of that story? Because I literally had the same thing happen to me. It's February, Combine. This is the 3rd year in a row at the Combine I've gone to see Sig. And you wind to Bloomington, little pink houses for you and me, the whole thing, and those roads, and you kind of have to weave into their facility, right, Rece? You kind of it's just not like a linear road. You kind of weave into the park, pull up to where you go. Put my car in park. It's like a blustery, late February, early March day. I look at that stadium, and I just said to myself, I can't believe they're going to hang a national championship banner in that dump. And that's what I said. And it was not as nice as you. I have full respect for them. Obviously, I'm the biggest cheerleader in the Indiana bandwagon. That is not exactly the nicest stadium in all of college football. That is not a palace. There is no one's writing a sonnet about is it Memorial Stadium?
Yes.
Yeah, about Memorial Stadium. It's a fine place to watch football. Don't take that too disrespectful. But that was what I said. I just can't believe they're going to hang a national championship banner in there, right there in this building. It was. I still can't believe it, but they did it.
The dichotomy of this, and as I I'll come back to Indiana for just a second, but a few hours up the road, another stop on our preseason series, the official visit series, was at Notre Dame. And CJ Carr gave us a tour while he was giving himself a tour He and I went into the building for the first time a few days before it opened. He had never been in there. And the difference between just the things that, coaches will tell you probably don't matter as much. Indiana has now greatly improved. But in terms of ornate, elaborate, all of the creature comforts anyone could want, there's a stark difference between the two. But the one thing Indiana's building that nobody else has right now is a space for the national championship trophy from this past year. And they've got everything down except the carpet. They've got a spot for that. They've got a spot for the Heisman. They've got a spot for all of their bowl wins in the trophy case. They had to build a new trophy case, Dan, because they didn't really have any need for one before Cignetti got there.
I don't remember every player in the history of Indiana. I know they had a couple guys in the 60s, but I'm assuming Mendoza's the best quarterback they ever had, even if it was only for one season. I also think there's something to be said about not having these country club facilities. And maybe that was an advantage to Indiana. Not that it was that bad there. It's not like they were practicing on a gravel lot. But I remember the story of Brad Stevens when he coached Butler basketball. And, they have Hinkle Fieldhouse, which is just a historic gym rat place. And when he had recruits on campus, they'd leave a rack of balls out. And when they'd walk them in, if the guys didn't start shooting, just because if you're in this historic place, I mean, they filmed Hoosiers there, all that, and you don't want to put up shots. And instead you're like, how nice is the locker room? Can I see the locker room? Which wasn't nice. You weren't going to be a Butler kid. You didn't fit what they were looking for. We want the guys that show up and go, oh my God, I just want to shoot. I want to take some jumpers. I want the gym rat. And, again, the Indiana's facilities were not that bad and the stadium isn't that bad. But again, like the more plush these things get, sometimes you wonder, is there an advantage in not having it that maybe Indiana tapped into? But the reason they were able to hang that is it's a whole new world.
They're getting their stuff now. The stuff they're getting is nice, and they have adequate meeting rooms now. The offices are upgraded. That is the one thing we did with Cignetti because that is his hobby, was watching tape. Everybody else, we try to do something off the, away from the norm, and it was great. By the way, I'm really looking forward to that part of it. He was so hospitable, couldn't have been better. Got a chance to visit with Brian Haynes, got a chance to visit with Mike Shanahan, got to see our old friend Tino Sinceri, who's back now after a brief hiatus to UCLA. Pete, though this is a preview, and while they did a good job once again in the transfer portal to try to plug some of the holes, because of recent court cases, they apparently have another reinforcement coming back to them. So Indiana is not really devoid of personnel by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, they've probably, in some regards, have elevated in some areas.
Yeah, so the thought, if you talk to Indiana, you talk to Brian Haynes, who is the best coordinator in the country right now. Hard to argue that after the run they've had on defense at Indiana the last 2 years. They feel like they're going to be deeper on defense. Does that mean they're going to be better? We'll see. Aiden Fisher's a huge loss for them, Rece. I don't think that's like an unquantifiable one. He was the brains, the heartbeat, the guy who Dante Moore said was calling out the plays, in that game in Eugene. So he, sometimes there's tangibles and intangibles, right? And that guy had all of the intangibles, and he's a guy who we're going to wake up in 10 years. He's still going to be on an NFL roster, as like the heart and soul of some team. But the big news, obviously, this week is that Stephen Daly is going to be back for the Hoosiers, pending litigation, which is like the eternal asterisk, almost it feels like in college sports. Stephen Daly led Indiana in TFLs. He led the Big Ten in TFLs. Didn't really get going 3-4 games last year, transferred from Kent. And Sig actually said today in an interview that he was the most dominant defensive lineman in the Big Ten by the end of the season. So remember, he got injured celebrating after they beat Ohio State in the Big Ten title game. Significant knee injury. Didn't get drafted, didn't get picked up anywhere, so he shouldn't have any eligibility issues that way. And that is, a position that was already a strength for them. They bring in the 2 defensive linemen from Kansas State to come in off the edge, and they have Tyreek Tucker in the middle, who's an All-American, tackle. So the thought on Indiana right now is like, boy, like they just added really an All-American, off of the scrap heap. Not the scrap heap, I should say, but just like off the free agent market. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it was like a waiver wire pickup. Like, this doesn't happen in college football, but it does now because we're all at the whims of random judges, I guess. But it's hard to overstate what a big deal that is to add an All-American chess piece, TFL specialist, 5.5 sacks, like guy who knows the system, Haynes trusts. Like, it feels like in Indiana, like there's a part of like, they want all the quarterbacks to struggle, right? They want them to go through it and come out the other side. It happened to Curtis Rourke. It happened to Mendoza. There were times at camp last year where people said Alberto Mendoza was better than Fernando until it all clicked. So the same thing's happening with Josh Hoover right now in terms of the spring and getting things together. So I just think it's hard to overstate what a huge pickup that is.
Dan, I think the one thing that if you look at this team and those 2 guys from Kansas State that Pete referenced, Toby Unsensami, Haynes believes has a potential to be as explosive as any pass rusher he's had. And the funny thing was Chidi Obiazor, I believe he said, well, we can probably use him in some of the ways we use Stephen Daly. Now we can just use Stephen Daly there. But the quarterback is the thing, especially when you are replacing a guy like Fernando Mendoza. And Josh Hoover, they felt like that right now, in terms of grasping the offense leadership, he is about at this stage, about where Curtis Rourke and about where Fernando Mendoza were at a similar stage here as they get ready to go. Now, there are differences. You'll see it immediately. Fernando's a bigger guy. Fernando probably moves a little bit better, certainly in terms of rushing yards. He's been more productive in creating things on the ground. He has also Hoover, has been in a position where he's had to put up huge numbers, big points, take a bunch of chances if his team, TCU, his previous team, had hopes of winning the game. He won't have to do that anymore with this defense, and that might allow him to be even more productive. And you're already talking about a guy in terms of pure productivity who comes back one of the most accomplished, one of the most prolific veteran quarterbacks in all of college football. I think he's getting close to 10,000 passing yards that he has in his career. So he's seen a lot of stuff, over the time. He's just under 10,000. He's got 71 touchdowns. He started 31 games. He's going to have to take care of the football, which has been a little bit of a problem, maybe a direct reflection of the need to make big plays. But this is the story, Dan. This is where, along with cornerback coming through, maybe a couple of other positions, the quarterback playing well will ultimately determine whether Indiana's in the mix at the end again.
Yeah, no question. How quickly can Josh Hoover fit into this offense and do what he does? And he's going to get a huge advantage and a lot of help. Charlie Becker returns, just a tremendous receiver for the Hoosiers last year. And then they brought in Nick Marsh. And he came out of 2 years at Michigan State where he absolutely excelled on the field, even though he was playing at Michigan State the last couple of years, and it was a total tire fire up there. This kid is a great player. I would expect a huge season out of Nick Marsh. So there's going to be a lot of help in trying to get this offense going, where I think I agree that defense is really solid.
Indiana should get off to a great start schedule-wise. They've got 3 non-conference games at home. Three games they're going to win. And we can talk about their schedule. And I do think it is fair critique that now that they have elevated themselves, if they are in fact the apex predators, and they should not be ducking out of the Notre Dame series. But that's a different discussion for a different day. So what you deal with here is they're going to win their first 3 games. Get Northwestern at home, Rutgers and Nebraska on the road. They ought to be undefeated before they go into a stretch of Ohio State coming to Bloomington, followed by a trip to Michigan. Then they get Minnesota off week, and then they get USC at home. So even though that is a tough 4-game stretch over that's over 5 weeks, 3 really tough games in that stretch, 3 contenders according to us right now. But you also get a couple of those games at home. And they also have time to ramp up. They have time to get Hoover fully acclimated. I think they're top two or three team in the country right now, and they might be number one by then. Let's go to the other team right at the top, or one of the two other teams. What about Ohio State? Now, I think, look, Ohio State they've got a new offensive coordinator. Get Matt Patricia back on defense, but they have more guys drafted than anybody else. They've got a lot to replace on defense, but they've done a great job in the transfer portal. Got a lot of established, proven players. Obviously, they have talent in the pipeline. They do each and every year. Dan, do you like Ohio State more than Indiana or less than Indiana as you start here right at the top of the Big Ten? And I realize by asking that question, I'm not asking you to say that one's good, one's bad. But just right now as you start, where do you lean a little bit between those two?
Oh, I don't let people down easy. I'll just hit them. Ohio State, I like everything about Ohio State except their schedule. And I think that's going to be the question all season is there is just no breaks on this. At Texas, at Iowa, at Indiana, at USC. They get Oregon and Michigan at home. Then there's these other tricky games. Illinois, who knows? Maryland, you mentioned. This is a team that I think is going to be a lot better than what they were last year. At Nebraska's in there. This is a gauntlet for Ohio State that, there's a lot of tough schedules out there, but this is as tough of a schedule as you're going to have to do. Can you do that every single week? And can you survive the injuries? What about depth? All of those things. That's my only concern about Ohio State in terms of talent, team makeup, coaching, everything else, hunger. It's all there. But can they handle that schedule? This is going to be a really fun, exciting year for Ohio State.
Well, we know that I am the leader of the Hoosier bandwagon, fearless, prematurely declared Hoosier national championship pick, probably ruining the suspense of our podcast on social media. But I do think Ohio State will be very good, and they'll be a playoff team. The place where I have them a hair below Indiana is I'm concerned about their defensive line, Rece. They bring in two transfers who are probably going to start at tackles, John Walker and James Smith. Good players, obviously. Smith came from Alabama. They had Edric Houston, who'd been there, and Will Smith Jr., obviously. They're not untalented there, but there's just a lot of new there. Christian Allegro comes in from Wisconsin. Veteran guys, played a lot of football. They have some very good players on defense. Kenyatta Jackson, the defensive end, probably his best prospect, but I just don't think you can say that they're in the same atmosphere in terms of high-end talent on defense as they were last year, because quite frankly, last year's Ohio State defense might have been one of the most high-end talented defenses that we've seen in college football in the last decade or so. So some of my skepticism is there, and then just how does that unit, with all the new 5-6 new transfers starting, hold up over the course of that schedule?
Well, the guy with the pencil behind his ear often seemed to have the chalk in his hand last. And Matt Patricia a year ago, he did a great job in terms of building camaraderie among those guys. And he also schemed things up to be able to use guys to their strength. Now, are they going to lead the nation in scoring defense, hold somebody to 9 points a game as they did a year ago and make it easy for a young quarterback? They may not be able to do that. But the good news for them is they don't have a young quarterback anymore. They have Julian Sayin, who threw 24 touchdown passes, and they held his hand a little bit, particularly early in the season, in order to let him acclimate to being the starter. Very accurate guy. He's got maybe the best player in college football, and Jeremiah Smith on the outside. There are guys who are going to have to step up to try to fit into that number 2 receiver role in order to take at least some of the pressure off of Jeremiah Smith. But They've got 5-star wide receiver and Chris Henry Jr. coming in. They've got some other highly touted receivers. There's a lot being placed on Brandon Ennis that maybe he can be the guy that sort of fills the role that the other receivers filled a year ago to keep Smith being as dangerous as he was. Carnell Tate was terrific last year. Can Ennis be that good this year? The offensive line, Pete and I, for years, when we've done these podcasts previewing the season, we talk about returning starts on the offensive line. You can't really look at that anymore, it seems, because there's so much movement up there. And what does that mean? And where were the starts? And a lot of the reason that, at least and I think Pete felt the same way, valued these things is because offensive line needs to be, there needs to be continuity and cohesion. And the returning starts or career starts, often in the past, that was defined by how much you'd played together. Well, that's not always the case in all of college football now. That said, it's still a pretty solid number for Ohio State. It's up around 90 starts. They've got guys up front that'll be good. So I don't think the defense, Pete, has to be what it was last year. And I think that Ohio State offensively is going to be, really, really explosive. They may have probably the second best Bo Jackson in the history of college football, but he's pretty doggone good at running back. Got the receivers.
Bo Jackson in college, Rece?
Actually, Bo was in college while I was in high school. So he's a little bit older than I am.
Okay.
But
I noticed you usually have some ties to guys from that era.
Well, the thing is, one of the I shot a commercial one time, as I digress, and I don't think you can tell some of these stories on podcasts. But Bo I was sitting in a room. It was Bo, me, Herschel Walker, and Doug Flutie. And we were waiting to shoot.
Relatable story.
Yeah, and Bo, Bo
starts
starts telling stories, including one that he swore was true. All of Bo's stories often wound up with, and so I picked the guy up by the neck and pinned him on the wall. and the whole time Herschel would sit there and go, Bo, that's not true. And Bo, it was a great afternoon. It was a memorable one for sure. But this Bo Jackson for Ohio State is really good. I think they're going to be terrific. There is a gauntlet in the schedule for them, as has been noted. After the Indiana trip, they have a week off, then they go to SC, and then they have Oregon at home. That's a tough stretch. But they, unlike Indiana's got a couple of them at home, Ohio State has to travel a couple of times. But I think the Buckeyes will travel just fine. I'm wavering back and forth right now. To be honest, I think I will probably pick Ohio State to win the Big Ten. When we get close to it, but it'll be all dependent on how they navigate that stretch. Do they take one loss or two? Because I'm not sure anybody's coming through the Big Ten without stumbling this year, as Indiana was able to do a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, look, like they could have a very good season and lose 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not like if you lose at Texas, like that's not shocking. And, we're sort of recalibrating what a playoff team is in our mind, right? Mm-hmm. It used to be you had to go undefeated, right? And now that the playoff's bigger, schedules are changing. It's interesting because, Sark was pretty blunt at media days. Like if they had just played Eastern Michigan last week instead of gone to Columbus and beat them 52-0, they'd have made the playoff. And nobody's pushing back on that. So it's going to be interesting, the playoff case for the loser of that game again this year is going to be, under a deeper focus. Now, Texas did lose to Florida. We don't have to but they could have survived that loss. It gave them, it didn't give them a mulligan. That's what happens when you lose that game. When you lose that game early. I have a name for you on the Ohio State offense. The buzz of summer is Brock Boyd. He's a receiver from Texas. Who even Jeremiah Smith said at Media Day reminded him of Jeremiah Smith when he arrived on campus at Ohio State. So Chris Henry is the guy who's coming in with all the pub and the hype. Brock Boyd has been the one who has been making all the plays so far. It's early, but don't be surprised if the true freshman comes in and shines a little bit. He is. He's been a guy who is 6'1" from South Lake Carroll, an old Quinn Ewers haunt there, and Brock Boyd has been the buzz, Rece.
And for the people who don't like the recruiting rankings, at least according to the list I have in preseason prep files put together here, 3-star.
Yeah,
so maybe he'll perform at a 5-star level. The other team that I think that virtually everyone would concede is the obvious national championship contender from the Big Ten is Oregon. Pete, I want you to think back over the last 3 seasons. You know what it takes to beat Dan Lanning's Oregon Ducks? You know what it takes?
It takes an appearance in the national title game.
It takes winning the national championship or playing in the national championship game. They lost twice to Washington the year that Washington went to the title game. They lost to Ohio State in the second meeting that they had against the Buckeyes in 24. And then last season, they played Indiana twice. They lost twice. One time competitive, had a chance. Other time got absolutely annihilated in the college football playoff. So that stuck with them a little bit. But it's sort of hanging on Oregon, even though they won a Big Ten championship. Can they come through in the biggest moments against the elite teams? That's what's out in front of them. And the numbers for Dante Moore, who is a brilliant quarterback, Heisman Trophy contender, but the numbers have dropped significantly. Now, how much of that dissipates, how much of that sort of the margins come a little bit closer to his standard performance with a full year of experience? I would anticipate that that's the case. But it is something that they have to address. His numbers haven't been, they're not going to be, you're not going to complete 85% and throw for 500 yards when you play Ohio State. Everybody or play Indiana. Everybody kind of gets that. But there's been enough of a drop off there against teams like Iowa and different games like that where you want him to elevate a little bit more. And I suspect he probably will. What do you think about the Ducks, Pete?
I love the Ducks, and it starts with their D-line. The 4 starters, other teams may have more D-line depth. In fact, Oregon lost a lot of their depth. Highly paid, transfers who went there for opportunity to play. But when you have Amari Washington and Bear Alexander in the middle, those are 2 maulers at defensive tackle. And then you have Mateo Uiagalelei. I think he has over 25 career TFLs, storming off one edge, and then Tatum Tuioti off the other. I don't think there's a better starting 4 defensive line in college football than Oregon, and everything on the defense is going to be based off that. So I am bullish on the Ducks. The schedule is, I would say, not unkind, right? As these things go, you're going to have a couple of tough games, but at Oklahoma State 10 years ago is a lot harder game than it is now. Even as they're rebuilding, probably good to catch them early as they're finding their legs with Eric Morris and Drew Mestemaker and the whole Denton North crew. For if we want to keep a theme going from earlier in the pod, but I do think that it would not surprise me if this is Dan Lanning's breakthrough. You know what I mean? It feels set up for that a little bit. I'm still sticking with my Hoosiers, but boy, has he put together a thumper, Dan.
I'm really looking forward to this late September game, 26th of September at USC. I feel like that's the one where these two teams, these two programs, both come in with a ton to prove. Can we make that next step? Old Pac-12 rivalry. I know USC's got other rivals. Notre Dame, sort of. Sometimes, maybe again.
Maybe again.
Have it. UCLA, obviously, but to a degree. Obviously, Oregon and Washington have that rivalry, proximity, tradition, all that. But in a lot of ways, football-wise, it's USC and Oregon because they're always knocking heads recruiting. Oregon has feasted off some of the dysfunction in USC's recruiting in Southern California. And there's just a lot there. That is going to be a huge game in the Big Ten on which team is a true national title contender. I love that. Would not be surprised if you guys are out in LA at like 6 a.m, standing around. And I will not be, so I don't have to worry about the 3 a.m. wake up call. So I'm well good for it. But we'll see. I don't set the schedule here.
Maybe we just roll right through, Dan. I mean, Rece's a big clubber. He could just be out in West Hollywood and then just go right to the set.
Sunset Boulevard. Yeah, just come right in. I'm sure, there's one guy on the set that might be up all night. But maybe Coach Saban will get to bed early.
I don't know. Saban in early for a change if that's what you want.
Maybe Saban won't be up all night in L.A., but maybe one guy is. I don't know. We'll see. Credit to Dan Lanning for getting Bear Alexander to finally be a great player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Amen.
And Barry Alexander for maturing and doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, sure.
Because that kid has had a ton of ability and go. But look, this is a fairly doable schedule. And that's the big thing. And I'll say, Rece, you mentioned, when are they going to get that win? And that can hover over a program. I don't think that matters as much in college football as especially these days. If you look back the last couple of years, Notre Dame hadn't won anything big in a long time, and they made a run to the national title game. Last year, Miami hadn't won a big game in a long time. They're in the national title game. Indiana hadn't won a big game ever. They won it. So I don't know that it's like, we go through that. They're knocking the door. You make a run. You keep going. You build the program, the mentality. I think Oregon can overcome that with their talent. And so this is going to be a really interesting season.
I think I agree with you in terms of the long-lasting impact because Oregon has won under Dan Lanning big games. Beating Ohio State at home in the regular season was a big game. But what's happened to them that I guess I should have been a little more precise in my language, which is a good thing for a broadcaster to be. But when they've had the opportunity on the playoff stage, it's not that they've gotten beaten by a field goal at the buzzer. I mean, Ohio State and Indiana in the rematches in the playoff, I mean, absolutely, I might borrow from my old friend David Pollack, donkey stomped them right out of the gate. And I think that's the thing. Can you avoid that? And can you fight a little bit of history? Real quick trivia. I'm not going to waste our time thinking long because we're going to hit these next three contenders in a little more expeditious fashion. Can you name the last national champion that won a season after changing both coordinators, which Oregon is doing? New offensive coordinator, both new defensive coordinator. Now, both were within the system. So they elevated guys who've been around. So there is that. But the caveat still remains. You know the last one?
I think it was a Saban because it seemed like he had coordinators on spin cycle.
It was not. I think maybe I don't recall for sure about whether how often they did this both O and D the same year. But according to the notes I've got, 2001 Miami.
Huh.
Interesting. Okay.
After changing both.
Can I pause a quick question, Rece?
I could have coordinated some of them. I could have coordinated the defense.
and some of Saban's too.
Yeah.
So I guarantee you this, Pete. If there's an Alabama fan out there listening, and there was one of the national championships that I overlooked here, for that we will hear about it for sure.
Let me ask you this, Rece. Do you think we'd get a good crowd at College Game Day in Los Angeles for the Ducks? When's the last time we were there? You would. Have you done one there?
I've done one at UCLA. We did Oregon at UCLA on campus. We've never done an SC one. And my understanding is we certainly haven't done one, and this will be my 12th year on the show. We haven't done one there. And as I recall, when they've done SC in the past, they used to do it outside the Coliseum, empty parking lot, which is not conducive to getting the great crowd. Now, if you can get on campus at SC in the morning, and that's a beautiful campus. If you haven't been there, it's just a spectacular place.
Yeah,
doing it on campus at USC, I think, would be electric. I think they'd come out and really get behind it.
They'd come right from the club with whatever cast member. Stanford Steve could definitely come right from the bar to the show. That's I put the odds on the fridge on that. Yeah.
Why would being in Los Angeles be any different from when we were in, I don't know, anywhere, Harrisonburg or anywhere?
Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, he's coming straight there no matter what. Steve's like, what's the difference here? Okay, let's hit these next three, the teams that we drafted in a little bit quicker fashion. And how good do you think the chance is that they break through, actually win the Big Ten, or break through, make the playoff? Or is this just one that you think if everything goes right could have a special season? Dan, you grabbed the Trojans first, and I think that's a great call. By the way, I mean, Maeva is the best downfield passer in terms of returning quarterbacks of anybody in the sport. They had a great recruiting class. Lincoln Riley has said they're built to do it now. How do you assess the chances of them actually coming through and doing it?
I think they're better in the trenches. Really good portal class. Alex Van Sumeren, I think it is, from Michigan State. They got a kid out of Penn State too, Zariah Fisher. Very good recruiting class. Like I said, everyone's going to play. You're going to have a lot of depth. No one's redshirting anymore and things like that. I think that, look, we can go, obviously they're going to have the offense. And Lincoln Riley's got some, he's not hard to read. And, I'm going to take a little bit of his confidence in this and his boldness, and they should be good. But I think they're going to be a lot better in the trenches. And I think they can, they got a lot of returners. They got what they need. So they got to put it together. They got to be consistent. They got to deal with adversity. They got to travel. You still got the back and forth. I think their schedule really has. There's like a bit to this schedule where they're back and forth and back and forth. They're at Penn State. They get a week off. They're at Wisconsin. Then they got to come home against Ohio State. They're at Indiana. And they get home against Maryland. Certain back, and they're at Rutgers the week before the Oregon game. Like, some of the travel could really pop in on them and get them. But that's where I'm at as one of the contenders. And let me just say this about the Big Ten. The fact that we have 6 contenders and we could have gone deeper. I think the one thing that really played, in the past, there was only 1 or 2 or 3 teams that were trying programs that you could say could legitimately win a national title or even trying to win a national title. And that was always the difference to me between the Big Ten and the SEC. The SEC would have 7 or 8 schools that they were trying to win a national title. Now, sometimes they get crossways and they weren't any good or they'd have a bad coach, but there was that desire where when you'd look at the Big Ten, it was like Ohio State and then Penn State and Michigan kinda. Now, I think any of these 6, if you said, boy, they got it together and made a run and they're in the championship game, you wouldn't be completely shocked. Totally different Big Ten, not just who's winning, but the depth of teams that are like, yeah, we want to win. We're going into this season saying we got a chance.
We talk about some of the storylines in our next edition of the podcast. I want to dive into that a little bit more about depth of conference, how you define it. You saw what Nick Saban said. You've heard what Tony Petitti has said in response. And something Dan said really stuck with me as well, based on a conversation I had recently with a executive in college football debating the whole, size of the playoff thing. And he defined hope as reason to spend. And by spend, he didn't mean just, going out like a wild drunken sailor and throwing money after facilities. He meant investing and trying to win. And I don't like any of the arguments for 24. I'm not backing off of it. I think it's patently absurd. Continue to think that that's way too big, way too fast. But of all the reasons I've heard, I'll buy that one first. A reason to try to win as opposed to just collecting the money. I think that's a good reason. Pete, you stole Penn State from me, which was fine with me because I like Michigan in this group too. Why Penn State? What has to go right for them?
Penn State is going to be sound. Look, it's a coaching change, right? So you're getting all the coaching change cliches. Discipline, accountability, camaraderie. Well, those guys should like each other.
We have the toughest offseason we've ever had.
Yes, correct. It used to be before that was not allowed. It used to be puking in the buckets. Remember, everybody used to puke in the buckets? That was the sign that the culture had changed. We had vomit buckets lined up everywhere. I'm not saying that's at Penn State, but that was like an old trope for a while with that. But Dayton Lynn comes in as the DC. He's been in the league. He knows it. And I think that I think like they were far more talented than they played to. The sum was not better than the parts at the end of Penn State. I think that's pretty simple. You have a reliable, accurate quarterback. You have a good offensive line. You have solid players on DC. You have good schemes, and you have a good culture coach. I think they can easily wake up 10-2 and in the playoff.
Can they win close games? Which Matt Campbell are you going to get? Prior to the 2024 season, Iowa State went through a stretch of time in which they lost 13 of 16 one-score games. Could not win them. Following year, when they went to the Big 12 championship game, they were 5-1. Last year, they were 5-3. So the last couple of years, 10-4. That's pretty solid. Are you going to win at that clip, or are you going to lose close games? Because losing close games is the reason Matt Campbell's at Penn State, not because he lost them, but because the previous administration, James Franklin, did entirely too often, particularly against highly ranked opponents. Iowa State has won some of those games, but one of the things that Iowa State did, and you can say there was a talent deficit or whatever, that they gave people scares. Now, at Penn State, with a lot of Iowa State players and other ones, are they good enough to be the one who has to avoid being scared? And the last one in our contender, I spoke about a lot of the reasons when I drafted them, so I won't reiterate them too much here, but other than just to say that it's not going to stun me if Michigan is in the mix. Now, there's a lot of change there, but it was needed change. And, Michigan comes in, they've got a big game week 2 at home against Oklahoma, which will be a really good measuring stick. But I think Michigan has an opportunity to make noise. I don't think that they will be good enough or have enough things go their way to actually win the Big Ten. But can they win enough of the games to maybe sneak into the 12-team playoff? Well, let's look at what they have in front of them. They've got Oklahoma at home. That will help if they could get that one for sure. Iowa, Penn State, Indiana all come to them. Indiana comes to them at a great time, right after the Hoosiers had just played Ohio State. And they do have to go to Oregon. They have to go to Ohio State at the end. So it would be surprising, just to be candid about it, if they are able to make it to the college football playoff, let alone, make it to the Big Ten championship game or anything like that. I don't think the schedule will allow it. I'm not sure they will be that good. But it doesn't take a ton. It takes, it'd be hard to do, but in terms of number of victories, it just means they need to pull off a couple. And if they could do that, I think they're close enough to be in those games, get a couple of breaks go their way, and then maybe they see their name pop up on that selection day and make it in. Okay, guys, let's wrap this one up. Who's going to win the Big Ten? Dan, start with you.
I'm going to go with the Ducks. The Oregon Ducks. I'll take that. We're just speed round, right? A speed round?
Speed round here, and we'll go to storylines and sleepers in the next edition of the pod. Pete, who wins it?
Indiana. Unidyllic stadium, really good football team.
Trash their stadium. Now he tries to come back.
Come on. I could already feel the aggregators circling around me.
They're so good to us. They're
great.
Sports information department. Everybody's great to us.
They're really nice.
I said all those nice things, and you had to then call me out about the 3 nice things, and then. Look. So as testament to the Big Ten's current reign as the best conference in college football, Dan's got Oregon, Pete's got Indiana. I'll take the team that's going to fight that team across the field and show them that Ohio State is here and atop the Big Ten for the first time since the COVID season. That was a little bit of an asterisk, too, because of the number of games that they played that year. But they haven't won the Big Ten since then. And part of the plug, again, the official visit series, we watched the play on the goal line that Ohio State had. They were about to beat Indiana and win the Big Ten. So they were right there on the cusp, couldn't get it done. I say they do get it done this time.
Who'd you watch it with?
Well, it was Signetti.
Oh, you watched it with Sig.
That's what the whole piece is like him watching film, breaking it down. We talked about how he watched concepts, why he watches for trends, how he breaks down players, some of the great plays that Mendoza made last year, and some of the similar throws that Josh Hoover has made at TCU. Now, Mendoza's got a bigger arm. There's not any doubt about that. Not that Hoover doesn't have a good arm. He does. And Mendoza's different, but there were some similarities in some of the things they did. We looked at that, looked at the guy who's going to be taking over for Aiden Fisher, Bones Jones, in terms of green dot on defense. So it's really cool. It's the series is going to be fun because it ranges everything from Sig with his feet on the desk, going through the laser pointer and showing us ball, to Joey McGuire showing off a tremendous birthday gift that he got from his wife. So we get to do a lot of different things like that and things all in between. Trinidad
Rece, you've been working this summer, man. Wimbledon
Trinidad
to Lubbock.
Chambliss, his favorite yogurt spot. We did that. We talked about CJ taking us through the Notre Dame facility. And I have one more stop. And no, first one. What a conversation with Mario Cristobal. Aside of Mario Cristobal, after Cafecito and sitting in a Cuban restaurant, that a lot of people, including some people who were there watching us film, and said, haven't really heard that much from it. It's really cool stuff. So it's been a lot of fun to do it.
It's a good summer. You got the coffee, you got the ice cream, you got yogurt, you got. This is a good idea. Mine would have all been done in bars. But
no BYU on Dan's tour.
Oh my God!
But you know what? That's an idea. Maybe we'll do it next year, because one of the ideas, and we ended up, because of so much of the news surrounding Texas Tech, we ended up going there for our Big 12 representative. But one of the ideas I had was, Bear Bachmeier plays guitar and sings.
He goes to local senior centers.
Yeah, so I thought maybe we'd do that with him. Maybe next year if BYU has a great year, which I think they will. But that's for another podcast when we do the Big 12. Sleepers and storylines coming up in the next edition of the College GameDay Podcast. Thanks for listening to this Big 10 Contention edition. Download wherever you prefer to get your podcast, or subscribe and never miss a single episode.